Yo, all right. How is it going today, everyone? It's good to see all of you. We've got, believe it or not, another Bible study stream, as we do every single Wednesday. Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. We got Genesis 24 today. It also happens to be like one of the only passages that actually talks about Isaac's life, which is interesting, I guess, because usually we think of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as being like major parts of the story, and to an extent, like Abraham is a huge part, Jacob is a huge part. They take up like most of Genesis, but Isaac gets like 2 chapters. So obviously he's still important, but this is like one of the only chapters that we actually get to hear from Isaac's story. So, yeah. Now, hopefully it should be a good one. It's a long chapter. So we're going to be here for a little while, even just talking or like reading the chapter, because reading the chapter is going to take even a while in of itself. Or Evan. But yeah. No, it should be good. It should be good. Hello, Cole. Good to see you. And yeah, I see Evan has now joined as well. How's it going today?
It's going alright.
That's good.
Living life.
Yeah, man. Sometimes it's all we can ask for.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty excited for today. I mean, it's a long, well, I don't know, I don't have like terribly much to talk on, but at the same time, it's a long chapter. Like, what is this, like 60 verses or something?
Yeah, it's around
67.
like 50 or 60. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's longer. I'm gonna miss most of the stream, but I know y'all are gonna have such a fire conversation. Dude, Evan's gonna have a fire conversation. I'm just gonna sit in and listen on it. No, I'm kidding. I'll help.
Let's see here.
But yeah, it's good to see you. Good to see you. How's it going today? I gotta at least hear how your day is before you head out. That's very important. Yeah, I got it pulled up here. And yeah, we got the starting crew here. I'm not sure who else will be joining me and Evan tonight, but we might get some people. We'll see. At the very least. But yeah. I'm in, oh gosh, I don't even know how to say that. So I have to drive home. I did race. I'm sorry, I'm trying really hard. I did have fun though, I think is maybe what I was trying to say. I did have a lot of, okay, that makes sense. I was really trying to figure that out. I did have a lot of fun though. I hung out with the dream team. I did accidentally clobber a dude in, oh, wow. No, you might not be forgiven for that one. Yeah, I hate to say it, but that might be the end of your time ever seeing him again. Hey, but at least you had fun though. I don't know if he did, but you did at the very least. And I found an apartment. There we go. And hopefully it's not like $3,000 a month for like a room and a bathroom. You know, because that'd be nice. Hard to find places that aren't liking like that anymore. Oh, okay. I don't know about that one. Yeah, I think he's just trying to be nice. He secretly definitely has some resentment. Deep down, he is definitely holding some resentment. He's just trying to be nice. Ooh, but yeah, I mean, I could pray us in real quick and then get us started on the read through. So technically, it's a studio apartment, 4 bedroom, 4 bathroom for 550. 550 a person, or 550 like? Because 550 total seems like dirt cheap. If it's 550 per person, that could be understandable for me. That's actually pretty good. I feel like for if it's 550 for 4 people, that's still pretty good. I feel like. Yeah, 550 each. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean that's still a really good price. Still a very good price. But yeah, sweet. I'll price in real quick, and then Evan, if you want to read through it, I know it might take a bit. We could take it by segment if you wanted to, like at half the
Okay.
waypoint or something. I mean, I'll leave it up to you, whatever you think
Yeah.
seems
I'll
best.
figure out a point.
Okay. But yeah, Father in Heaven, thank you so much for gathering us here today. Thank you for being able to get all of this stuff working. That back home, the internet seems to be working out well so that we can continue to have this discussion. I thank you for being able to put this on and for calling me and Evan to do this kind of a thing so that we can have these really fun conversations and talk about your word. I pray that we would find everything that you want us to out of it, and that you would be here amidst our conversation, guiding it and making it pleasing and glorifying unto you. I pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
So,
All right.
there we go.
All right, I will start reading. Genesis chapter 24. Now Abraham was old and well advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. So Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who ruled over all that he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of the heaven and the God of the earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. But you shall go to my country and to my family, and take a wife for my son Isaac." And the servant said to him, "Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I take your son back to the land from which you came?" But Abraham said to him, "Beware that you did not take my son back there. The Lord God of heaven, who took me from my father's house, from the land of my family, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, to your descendants, I give this land, he will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be released from this oath. Only do not take my son back there." So the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels, and departed, for all of his master's goods were in his hands. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor, and he made his camels kneel outside the city by a well of water at evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. Then he said, "O Lord God of my master Abraham, please give me success this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I stand by the well of water, and the daughters of men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now let it be that the young woman to whom I say, Please let down your pitcher that I may drink, and she says, Drink, and I will also give your camels a drink. Let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master." And it happened, before he had finished speaking, that behold, Rebekah, who was born of Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her pitcher on her shoulder. Now the young woman was very beautiful to behold, a virgin; no man had known her. And she went down to the well, filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant ran to meet her, and said, "Please let me drink a little water from your pitcher." So she said, "Drink, my lord." Then she quickly let her pitcher down to her hand, and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw water for your camels also, until they have finished drinking." Then she quickly emptied her pitcher into the trough, ran back to the well to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And the man, wondering at her, remained silent so as to know whether the Lord had made his journey prosperous or not. So it was, when the camels had finished drinking, that the man took a golden nose ring, weighing half a shekel, and two bracelets for her wrist, weighing 10 shekels of gold, and said, "Whose daughter are you? Tell me, please, there is room in your father's house for us to lodge." So she said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor." Moreover, she said to him, "We have both straw and feed enough, and room to lodge." Then the man bowed down his head and worshipped the Lord, and he said, "Blessed be the Lord God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his mercy and his truth toward my master. As for me, being on the way, the Lord led to me the house of my master's brethren." So the young woman ran and told her mother's household these things. All right, I'm stopping.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you.
And then I will get the rest of it in a second.
Yeah, that's
But
probably a good point.
Would be a good place to spot.
Yeah. So, I've thought of, like, I haven't really thought of, like, any, like, deep theological things, really, for a lot of this passage. However, I have thought of, like, some cultural things that are somewhat interesting.
Okay.
Some of them we've already gotten to, and then others we haven't. But I don't know. Do you have anything that first comes to mind?
I mean, I can just say first of all that this is one of my favorite stories in all of the Bible because I love how this guy like just so it's a servant of Abraham and he goes out and when he like needs something, he just prayed for it. Like he
Hmm.
literally prayed to God that God like show me the way, show me
Mm-hmm.
like who it's gonna be, like bring her to me. Like I don't know, I just think it's awesome because I don't know. I mean, just I guess it's kind of like his faith in a way. Just the
Hmm.
fact that because I feel like it's something that a lot of us would do, like pray to God that he would show you the way or pray to God that he would show you the right thing to do or
Mm-hmm.
pray to God that he would show you just, all the details that you want to know. And like that's what he's doing and I just think that's awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like, there's actually something interesting I want to talk about with that
Mhm.
because I've talked about in previous classes and wrote in papers on elicited prophecy and what was allowed and what
Mm.
wasn't allowed during the time of the Old Testament. And I want to go over that. But this is a story that I hadn't considered in that light before. And if you read it in that light, you would you'd kind of see that this is the type of elicited prophecy that Moses would have allowed, which is really
Mhm.
interesting. So for anybody in chat who doesn't know, elicited prophecy is essentially whenever you're going to God about something and you're going to do some kind of action in order to decipher what he's trying to tell you in the moment. So think like other places in the Bible talk about casting lots. That's a form of elicited prophecy where you're going before God and you're saying, I'm going to cast these lots and whatever they give is your will. And the same thing with the drawing of the stones is another form of elicited prophecy that Moses would have allowed. Um, One thing that a lot of people don't know, however, is that these types of elicited prophecy were not an Israelite thing. These were a cultural thing of the time period where people of all cultures did this for their own gods. They would do this form of elicited prophecy. And that's why whenever we get to Exodus and Leviticus and those books, Moses has to, in the law with God, they come to terms on which forms of prophecy or which forms of elicited prophecy are okay with God and which ones aren't. And it's really interesting where the line is drawn. Essentially, where the line is drawn is forms of elicited prophecy that are up to interpretation are banned, and what forms of elicited prophecy that are yes or no answers are allowed. So think of it in this light, right? A very popular form of elicited prophecy back then was reading clouds or reading palms, right? Like you'd have witches that would read people's palms and they would come up with their prophecy based on that. And there were other people that would look to the clouds and they try and decipher them. That's all interpretation. There's no yes, no answers there. So God banned those ones. The types of elicited prophecy that were allowed was casting lots and stones, because those were a yes and no answer. Think about like flipping a coin, right? Heads is yes, tails is no. God, what do you want me to do here? Flip the coin, whatever that is, that's what you do, right? Yeah, rolling dice would be a very good equivalent to casting lots, right? Because there's multiple answers you get with casting lots, just in the same way that there is with rolling dice. But it's a concrete answer, whatever you get from it. In the same way that they did pulling rocks, is what they did. So you would have a bag on you, right? And this bag would have like a white rock and a black rock in it,
like
something like that.
Thum.
Yeah, the and the Thum. Yeah.
I think that's what it's called, and Thum.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to use that, but yeah, that's exactly what it's called. So you'd have a bag on you, it's a white stone and a black stone, and you'd say, God, what do you want me to do here? White stone, yes, black stone, no. You pull the stone, whatever you pull, that's what you have to do, right? So that was how they determined during Moses' time which forms of cultural elicited prophecy were good and bad, because it was done all over the world at that time period, for every mythology. And that's the thing here, is that this fits in with the type of elicited prophecy that God would have allowed. Because he just straight up says, like, if this happens, she's the one. Like, there's no interpretation to it. It's just, if this happens, that's it. I know it's your will. So it would have fit into the type of elicited prophecy that Moses would have allowed, which I thought was really interesting. I never thought about this passage in that light before. Oh, also, Altus, sorry, I missed you. Thank you for... Hey, it's good to see you, man. How's it going tonight? But yeah, no, that was, I don't know, I had really thought about that, because I remember writing papers on that and thinking about that a lot. But yeah. There's some significance behind the instructions of who? What part are you finding the significance in, out of curiosity? Do you have like a particular verse? Oh, and I definitely have a lot to say on Abraham's character in this passage too, but we can get to that in a bit. If she is as heavy as a duck, she is a witch? What? Am I missing something?
That sounds crazy, whatever that is. That sounds
I was gonna
awesome.
say. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued. That's for sure. I am certainly intrigued. I'm trying to think of like what verse would have the most significance behind it in regards to who. I mean, I guess like, oh, here we go. So Abraham was known for being a pillar of kindness. So when looking for a bride for his son, they are looking for someone who not just offers water, but cares for all of creation like Abraham did. There's some hints within the Hebrew doing callbacks to earlier verses. Yeah, and I was kind of thinking that might have been where you were going, is looking for her character and seeing what she would say in return to Abraham's master. At this well, this would be away from her community, so without the oversight of her parents or authorities. Yeah, no, that's true. Actually, you know, that does bring an interesting thing to mind, is, because during the time of Jesus, it was very strict on what time women went to the well, because it was supposed to be the time of the day when the men weren't around, so there wouldn't be any chance for them to run into other men that weren't their husbands or their family. So I don't know if that was a thing at the time here. It doesn't seem to be, but I guess it's possible. Paraphrasing Monty Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's a Monty Python joke. Okay, I didn't get it right away until you said that. Oh, I need to rewatch that movie again. What am I doing with my life? Oh, dude, if you... Chat. Listen, I know it's a touchy subject, but that one scene in Monty Python, I've been seeing all over the internet recently, because it's like, oh, Monty Python predicted modern American sexual ethics, and now I'm going back and rewatching it on the internet, and it's way too true. Evan, you know which one I'm talking about? Which scene? It's like, for chat, for if you guys don't remember, it's like this scene from Monty Python, and there's this guy, he's sitting with, like, his fellow workmates or something, and he's sitting there, and he's like, I don't remember how the conversation devolves, but he's like, I want to get pregnant. And the other guys around him are like, you can't do that. You're not a mother. You can't have children. You're a dude. And then he's like, well, yeah, but I should at least have the right to be able to have a kid. And they're like, why would you want to have the right to be able to have a kid? Wait, Evan, do you know which scene from Monty Python I'm talking about?
I've never seen Monty Python.
You've never seen it?
Nope.
Oh, shoot. Okay,
I hear people talk about it all the time, though. I've never actually seen it myself.
But yeah, so this guy, he's like, I want to be able to have a kid, and the other guys around him are like, you can't have a kid, you're a guy. And then he's like, well, I should at least be able to have the right to have a kid. And then the other guys are like, yeah, no, you know what, let's fight up. You're being oppressed. Let's fight for your right to be able to have a kid. And then the one guy stands up, he's like, why would we fight for your right to have a kid when you're a dude? It's like Monty Python predicting modern American sexual ethics.
That's hilarious. Actually, I think I have probably seen that before, like in like a YouTube video or like a meme or something.
Yeah, it's just funny because we were talking Monty Python, and I remembered that scene came up recently.
That is hilarious.
So testing the character of one's heart when no one is around except strangers. You care less about appearing as you're supposed to and being more yourself. Yeah, so it's not even just a test of her character in general, it's a test of what her character is when no one else is around. On the other note, dice were often lopsided and unevenly weighted for a similar reason, because all things, once they left your hands, were the will of the gods. An atheist in those days was not someone who didn't believe in gods, but one who didn't believe in your gods. But everyone believed that all of creation was controlled by gods, including how the dice landed. Yeah, no, exactly. Fair dice and dice that had opposite ends add up to 7 were a much later invention because no one actually believed that there was a such thing as luck. It was destiny and the will of the... Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, everyone had some kind of belief in fate and destiny and, like, the gods' intervention in everything that happens. So that was why it was much more... Like, that's why it was so widespread to have elicited prophecy, because they believed that everything they did... Like, there was no chance to anything. Like, whatever happened was absolutely because the gods willed it to be so. So if you were rolling dice, it was because the gods wanted it to land exactly how you rolled it. That's also why, like, Yahweh says to Moses, like, yeah, no, in your law, any form of elicited prophecy that has interpretation to it is completely banned. So, like, the two most popular ones at the time was reading clouds. Reading clouds was a very popular one at the time. And the other one was throwing sticks or arrows. Different cultures did different things, but like essentially you'd gather up a bunch of arrows or you'd gather up a bunch of sticks and you'd throw them on the ground, and then however they landed, you'd interpret it, which was, yeah, not okay either, according to the Bible. Or according to the law of Moses, I mean.
You could, like, yeah, with those sorts of, like, types of prophecy, I mean, you could pretty much make up, like, whatever you want.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you looked at a cloud, like, you look at one cloud and, like, 10 different people are going to have completely different thoughts of what that cloud looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Or what it means.
Imagine bringing D&D to the ancient people. Dude, that would be incredible. I think you're onto something here. So yeah, now, since we're talking about the character of these people involved, right? I want to talk about Abraham's character here. We see, like, now he, like, we were talking, I think it was last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, about like this kind of journey that Abraham's been on, where he had like complete faith in God, and he started going downhill to the point of like questioning God and laughing at him, and now he's been kind of like built back up to the point of like Isaac's sacrifice, right? And now like we're at a complete point where like God doesn't even have to speak to him. Like Abraham has complete faith in God in this moment when he's talking to, his servant here. Like, he first of all says like Isaac will not leave this land because this is the land that God has promised, that where was it at? The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and swore to me, to your offspring I give this land. Like he's quoting God there, and he's saying like, no, this is the land that my family will dwell, because this is the land that God has brought me to. And he's telling his servant like, you will make sure that my son comes back here, even though his wife will be from a different people. And he has complete faith that God will provide the woman for him. Like he has no doubt in his mind. It's not until the servant brings to attention the fact that God might not bring a woman to him that he says, oh, well, if that's the case, then sure, you're free of your commitment to me. But like in Abraham's mind, it's not even a thought. He's like, you're going to go here because God is going to provide a woman for my son, and you're going to bring her back here to be with him. So it's like complete faith in God, like beginning to end of this statement here. Completely. Which even further, actually, I mean, somewhat different topic, but it's also speaking on Abraham's character as a human being. I mean, we've seen this before in how he treated Hagar, but we see it here in how he treats his male servant too. Like, Abraham treats his servants very well. Like, to us as like modern day readers, we look at this and we're like, oh, well, Abraham has servants and slaves, like, that's kind of not cool of him. But, like, he treats his servants really well. Like, this is far better than anyone back there would have treated their servants. Like, even with Hagar, like, he treated Hagar so well previously, and he's treating this servant so well, too. Like, it's almost like people who today bring up the Bible as, like, a pro-slavery document and an anti-woman document, right? And then we can look back and we can say, like, yeah, no, like, Paul does speak on, like, slavery, and, like, there's all this other stuff, but, like, at the same time, they're being very countercultural in that they are actually treating women and slaves far better than everybody else in the culture did at that time. So, like, it's the same kind of thing here. It's like, Abraham is treating his servants far better than anybody else would have during this time period. Like, I guess it's kind of hard to explain any further than that, but like, I don't know. I think it just really goes to show like Abraham's character. Like, even though these are his male and female servants, he treats them very well, all things considered.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, I'm trying to type something. 560 points left. Oh gosh, what are you doing? I'm scared. I feel like I should be scared. You're gonna do something today. Yeah. Evan, what do you have? Anything else for this section here that we're still going over?
I actually just realized this right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It says, but Abraham said to him, beware that you do not take my son back there. The Lord of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my family, and who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, to your descendants I give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. I didn't... Like, God sent, like, an angel? Like, am I
Hmm.
reading that right, or am I reading that wrong? I didn't catch that the first time.
Yeah, he will send his angel before you, and you shall take away for my son from there. Yeah,
So
that's
like
not
he
that's not
so
mentioned
like
anywhere else. That's so weird.
like God is sent, like how I'm reading it as, well, God's gonna send an angel that's gonna like help, like help the situation, like you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like help the, like either like give like a dream or like a
Hmm.
word from God to Rebecca, or like
Hmm.
help in some way. Like I don't know. I didn't catch that the first time that God was gonna send an angel or his angel.
Yeah. No, I guess that's interesting because the
I
angel's
didn't
not
realize.
mentioned anywhere else in this passage. It's only in that verse that it's mentioned.
Yeah, like I was just overlooking it right now, and I was like, I just realized that there's an angel involved in this story.
Yeah.
Did you realize
Hmm.
that or no?
I guess like I just kind of read over it because it's not like explicit. Um,
Yeah,
like in all the other portions of Genesis so far where an angel's mentioned, it specifically mentions what the angel does and how it
yeah, like it's pretty
intervenes.
like specific.
Yeah, here it's kind of not. I guess you know what? I wonder that's starting to add to my list of things from this passage specifically that like I've pointed out a couple other things in my head so far that I've seen as like not typical of a lot of the rest of this book. Um, and that's I guess another thing to add to that list, which is interesting to me.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, but other than that,
No, yeah, I think yeah, that's interesting to point out though. I'm kind of glad you
yeah,
did because
no,
I wouldn't have thought about it more than that.
just randomly noticed it. I was like, huh, that seems weird.
Hmm.
And I don't think I see anything else about, other than the fact that he's asking like for someone who's like really like with like hospitality, like really cares and like really
Hmm.
kind. I mean, like
Yeah.
Rebecca, like I mean, because you got to think too, like isn't the servant like going with like a group of men? Is that stated in here? I heard someone say
Oh,
that.
yeah. That I didn't. Where was
Like
that?
the servant's going with like a group of men with probably like multiple camels. I mean, it could be like 10 camels.
Yeah, I know it did
And
mention there was many camels he took with him.
yeah, and like I mean, like camels can drink like a lot of water, like a
Yeah.
lot. so, so
Oh
like I
yeah.
don't know, like to be like, oh, I'll draw you some water, and I'll draw some water for your camels too. That's like pretty like, oh, like
Hmm.
wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. A lot.
Yeah, so that's one thing I notice is that Rebecca is like a person of, I don't even know, hospitality. But other
Hmm.
than that, yeah.
Yeah. No, hmm. Trying to think if there's anything else in this section that I haven't. Oh, from verses 2, 3, and 9, from the Targums, it was understood to be essentially placing his hand on the sign of the covenant, if you catch my drift, as a way of saying, this too. I'm sorry, that just hit me. It didn't hit me as I was reading it until after I said it, what you were trying to say there.
Wait.
From the Targums, it was understood to be essentially placing his hand on the sign of the covenant, if you catch my
Oh,
drift. Because he's placing his
yeah,
hand on
that's
his
insane.
thigh.
That's insane.
An oath to Abraham
Yo,
and God. This sign hits lots of people on a regular, but yeah. No, that's interesting.
no way.
So that like almost that comment is honestly funny to me in the exact same way that Mount Sinai is nowadays. I can't read Hebrew yet, but whenever I was taking my Pentateuch class, I remember my professor was pointing out that whenever it says that God wouldn't show Moses his face on the mountain, he showed him his back. It more literally translates to his butt. um,
Yo.
like actually, which makes it like much funnier. You know what? I wonder what it is with English translations of that portion of Exodus, because I know other things that aren't translated super well into English from that exact area. Like for instance, one that I know that's been brought up on the internet a lot recently is the fact that "thou shalt not kill" is not a very great translation. A better translation would be "thou shalt not murder." But for some reason, a lot of English translations translate it as "kill," even though it doesn't make any sense in the Hebrew. I wonder if there's like some thing there specifically that it's like why certain things weren't translated as well there to English. I don't
I
know.
mean, that even causes a lot of confusion too, because I've heard a lot of people who have even said like, well, like killing, like having, like, isn't that like one of the Ten Commandments? Thou shalt not kill. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, like in a sense of like murder. Like, what do
Yeah.
you? It's like I don't know. It does cause confusion for some people.
hmm Yeah, it's like in the Hebrew, it like it really doesn't translate to kill at all, because if you're saying if you're saying it translates literally to kill, then
Yeah.
like we'd all have to be vegans because you have to kill animals. You have to like you wouldn't be able to like go to war. You wouldn't be able
Yeah,
to
like
like
war
defend
animals.
yourself.
The government wouldn't be able to do capital punishment. Like,
Yeah, so like it
I mean, the
really
whole.
yeah. And like the Hebrew does much like it doesn't really in the Hebrew mean kill at all. It really does mean like murder. So it's like I don't know. It's essentially what is behind, what is passed before him, which is why Moses then has the description of God, and they aren't physical descriptions. It's things like mercy, love, fairness. Yeah. Huh. Well, that's something I wish my professor would have pointed out. Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting in that light. Oh yeah, I guess another point to so going back to the whole talk with like servants and women and stuff like that. Like the servant, it's very clear that the servant likes Abraham too. Like it's not like
Yeah.
this servant is so happy for Abraham. Like it's even to the point where like we haven't gotten here yet, but like the servant says like no, like Rebekah cannot stay here any longer. Like I am so excited for her to meet my master and his son. Like we have to go now. Like he genuinely loves Abraham and like cares for him and like goes to show further like yeah, Abraham is a really good to his servants. Like he cares for them in a way that a lot of other people wouldn't have cared for them back then. And I don't know. It's like so many people today like try to use the Bible as like a pro-slavery document and like an anti-woman document, and then like you
Oh
see how
yeah, people do that
yeah,
all the time.
and then like you see how Abraham treats his servants, and you see how like Paul was so because the Roman Empire had like all these like laws with slaves, and they weren't super kind to them, and then Paul's like, no, like you treat your slaves just as you treat yourselves, like that was so radical. Like even like people look at that and they're like, "Oh, well Paul's for having slaves, so like obviously we shouldn't read the Bible." But then you look at it and it's like, "No, he was so he was so countercultural to how slaves were treated back then." And the same thing with like Jesus and women. Like so many of the things that Jesus does with women, like we don't bat an eye at it nowadays. But like if you read that back then, it's like, "He did what with a woman?" Like he talked with a woman? Like, he let her in on a discussion with other men? Like, he trusted their opinions on things? Like, he
I
did
mean,
what with
after he
women? Like,
resurrected, he showed himself to women first.
yeah.
And that's countercultural within itself because they were the ones that had to go and tell all the other disciples. And back then, in that time, you just anything that came out of a woman's mouth, you just don't believe. Like,
Yeah. No, like that sounds so harsh, but it is 100% accurate. Like in Roman law, like this wasn't just a cultural thing. This was literally written in Roman law that I forget the exact number, but I think it was you had to have 5 women's testimonies against one man's testimony for it to be considered equal. I think it was like 4 or 5. I don't remember which, but it was like you had to have that many women's testimonies against one man's testimony to be. I think it was 4. I think it was 4 women's testimonies because that was why the gospel was so counterintuitive, because there was only 3 of them, and it was like back then it would have been seen like, oh, there was only 3 women, we can't trust their testimony because it's not enough for the law to count them. And it's like, no, well, we do believe it. Like, even though it was only 3 women and it wasn't a man at all, like, we trust their opinion on the subject. Like, completely countercultural.
And look at where we are now.
Yeah. Low Ratsich, greater than no murder, but it's spelled Resh Sadichet. Sorry, I can't speak Hebrew yet. I'm trying. Letters have meaning. Wicked takes righteous life, or a taking the life of the innocent righteous, and wicked represents deciding what is good and evil on your terms, not God's terms, taking action outside of God's guidelines. So murder is more like do not take matters into your own hands and take the livelihood of the righteous. Yeah. Oh, dude, I mean, part of me can't wait to do the Hebrew stuff, but the other time I'm like, man, I gotta learn the whole language in like 3 months. Spiritual butt is God showed his butt to Moses on the Mount Sinai because he wasn't allowed to see his face. It's something only Hebrew readers would get. I'm not a Hebrew reader yet, so I can't claim that joke, but hey, soon I would guess I will be able to. Oh yeah, I gotta start that Monday. I gotta start looking at that book. I did look through the first lesson of Hebrew, and it's gonna be tough. So I have to do like 4... I think I have to do 4 lessons per week in order to get through the whole thing.
Oof.
And just the very first lesson, like I would think like, oh, the first lesson is just learning the alphabet or something like that. Nah, the first lesson is learning the alphabet, learning what every character sounds like, because it's a syllabic. So if you don't know the difference, there's like hieroglyphics, which is like the Egyptian stuff, which is picture to speech, and then there's syllabic writing, which is 1 character equals 1 syllable, and then there's alphabetic language, which is like English, where it's like it's not syllabic. And anyways, Hebrew is a syllabic language, so we had to learn every character and the syllable that goes with each character, and then we have to learn all the variants, because I mean I could be butchering this, but from what I understand, if a character comes at the very end of a word, which would technically be at the front because it's right to left, it has a different character. So we have to learn the alphabet, what each syllable sounds like, so we have to pronounce them, and we have to learn the different variants of the characters just for the first lesson. And I think there's 23, something like that. Me laughing in Hebrew? Can you? No, not yet. I haven't even taken the first lesson yet. I just know what Hebrew looks like. I don't know. I could take a guess, but I'd probably get it wrong, honestly. I try to read it in Welsh, but it is Greek to me. I know that's a saying that it's... I know that's an analogy saying it's like Greek to me, as in you don't understand it, but that hits way too hard at home, knowing that within the year I also have to learn how to speak Greek. Oh, dude, Greek is gonna suck. Okay, so honestly, I'm more excited for Hebrew than I am for Greek. So I'll briefly explain the difference. So Hebrew and Greek are about as opposite as you can get language-wise. So Hebrew is syllabic, so they're very simple words. Like, I think each word is only 3 characters, I'm pretty sure, if I remember right. And there's not very, very many words, so it's very interpretive. So it's like kind of a creative, flowy language. That's why they had a lot of poetry and stuff back then. It's very interpretive. It's very, uh, I don't know what other word to use for it. And then there's Greek on the other hand, which I'm dreading above all else because Greek is so unbelievably specific. Like whenever they say like they have 5 words for love, it's because really, truly, like every word in English they have like 5 to 10 words for because they're so hyper specific. And there's no room for interpretation whatsoever. Like their language is so concrete and specific because they have tenses and they have words for everything. So like for instance, think so here's another like layer of Greek that I'm going to have to try and understand. So like in English, right, we have 3 tenses. We have past tense, we have present tense, and we have future tense. Like I was doing something, I am doing something, I will do something, right? We have 3 tenses. In Greek, they have like 12. So like let me give you some examples that my friends have told me about. So they have past tense completed or past event completed tense. So like my birthday was last year and that event completed. Then you have like past event that carries into today, which is like I started my Hebrew class because that's not an event that is completed. And then there's like past event that started in the past and also ended in the past. So like World War II is a past event that started and then went on for a time and then ended sometime also in the past. And then like it's ridiculous how many tenses they have for everything. So that's to say, I'm not as worried for Hebrew as I am for Greek. I think Greek is going to be much harder. Anyways, sorry, I don't know how... Oh yeah, we were talking about Hebrew.
I've heard Greek is harder, definitely.
Welsh doesn't make sense. Greek tenses are weird. Yeah, the Greek tenses are super weird. I'm going to have to... I'm not looking forward to it. What makes it worse is that the gospel writers weren't experts in grammar either. Oh, no, 100%. Yeah. So here's a really interesting thing. So I've always heard the exact same thing. Like Mark is very bad at Greek. Like he doesn't, know how to like write Greek very well. So it's even harder to read the Gospel of Mark because not only is it Greek, but it's Mark's Greek, which wasn't very good. Here's something that I had brought to my attention recently is that even though Mark is like grammatically one of the worst ones, apparently I'm not like an English major or anything like that. I'm not like a literature major or anything like that, but in regards to the literature profession, they tend to look at Mark as like the greatest, which was fascinating for me to learn. Like I was my one professor for the inductive Bible study of the Gospel of Mark, he brought this to my attention. He was like, yeah, no, whenever like people in the literature profession get the Gospel of Mark, they look at it and they're like, this is one of the most beautifully crafted stories we have ever seen. Like the parallels and the symbolism and the mystery behind it and how it unravels over time and everything. It's like, it's so beautiful. How it all flows together. It's like truly a work of art as a narrative document. Which is so ironic because the grammar of it is supposed to be like the worst. Like Mark would write, after going to the grocery store, my fridge was full. Grammatically, it means your fridge went to the store and potentially ate a bunch of food. What? Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Anyways, hey, maybe once I actually start doing Hebrew, maybe I can like pick a day out of my week where we can study Hebrew on stream together or something like that. I don't know if that's something you guys would even be remotely interested in. I'm feeling like probably not, but I don't know. If you guys were, I'm gonna have to be spending like multiple days a week studying it already, so maybe I'll throw that past you guys at some point. Thursday? I mean, if I was to do Hebrew study sessions, I feel like it would be maybe an off-stream thing. Maybe it would be like we'd get in Discord, anybody who wants to join, and like I'll put out an announcement like, hey, we're studying Hebrew in the Discord if you want to come join, or something like that. Join us for Hebrew studying on WhatsApp? Oh, I don't have WhatsApp, but honestly, I'd be interested. You know what? Honestly, I might download WhatsApp just to get in on that, if I'm being honest, because that might actually be helpful for me. And Evan, I don't know if you're interested in learning Hebrew, but
Oh, definitely. I'd be down.
I mean, I don't want you to like actually just come like, just because, but like if you actually genuinely would want to like try and learn Hebrew, I could
Get involved.
yeah, because like
It's
I
funny.
mean,
I was talking to you knew about it, and she was like, "Oh, that's cool." She goes, "I want to do that." I'm like, "Really?"
okay.
She's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I mean, maybe we will figure out something then. Maybe we can find the night where we can all get in Discord and study it together then. Because, I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
that'd be super helpful for me. Because it gives me more reason to study it, and it would help
Oh
me
yeah.
out. Like just talking about it and working through it with people would be a huge help for me. And like you guys could also
Definitely.
get part of it out of it. I mean, I'd be sprinting through it, so I'd probably be going a lot faster than maybe some of you guys would be comfortable with. Probably more than I'm gonna be comfortable with. Um, but yeah, I'm just here studying and helping when I can. Yeah, dude, absolutely. We go deep into the rabbinic, and you learn Hebrew along the way. We have like 10 small groups. Yeah, dude, that'd be fun. Yo, Orthodox, how's it going, man? Were you streaming today, man? I gotta know, dude. If you were streaming today, I gotta know what you were streaming. It's good to see you, man. Good to see you stop by. Yeah, dude, if you want to join us on Discord, maybe I'll put in some announcements. I start next week is gonna be my first week studying. I probably won't look at it until probably Monday or two, because I think the class technically starts on Tuesday is the first day, but I might try and look through the first lessons on Monday before we have class, just so I can get like a head start. But yeah, we can talk about more of that later. We can get back into Genesis. But yeah, dude, it's good to see you, man. Um, Stopping by. I remember you said you stream Bible study and went, yeah, dude. It's good to yeah, I'm glad you decided to stop by, man. Oh, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for even just stopping by. It means a ton. But yeah, we're going through Isaac and Rebekah's marriage. We got up until I think it was 28 we left off on. So we just got to yeah. So like the servant went out to Abraham's homeland and then asked God to send the right woman to the well, and then she offered to water the camels and stuff like that. And then we're gonna get actually into like, meeting Rebekah's family and stuff like that in just a second. I did stream the PlayStation Showcase earlier today. Dude, I did not know that was going on until like an hour before stream. And I didn't see everything they announced, but I saw a couple things. I mean, I saw the new Spider-Man trailer, which is sick, because those games were... Or I don't know how many of them there are now, but I remember the ones that I did play were super fun. And I heard Bungie announced a new extraction shooter, or like they at least announced it or something like that. So I definitely want to look into that after stream, and see what that's all about. But yeah, if you have some highlights from PlayStation that I don't know about, that'd be fun to hear about. If there's any cool games that were announced at it. Because all I know is those two. I just know about the extraction shooter Bungie announced and Spider-Man, so I don't know if there's anything else cool they announced. There were some interesting things? Okay. I mean, I imagine there's got to be some, like, things that I'll be able to play, even though I don't have a PlayStation. I mean, the Spider-Man game I'll have to wait until I come across somebody who has one so I can play, I don't want to interrupt Bible study, though. Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, you can just put them in there, and then I'll read over them. I'll take a mental note, and then I can look them up after stream. But yeah, I was looking through. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, actually, there was one thing. Evan, I don't know if you know anything about this, but I don't. So, it mentions, like, specifically the servant gave her gold nose ring and 2 bracelets.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know, like, I don't know if there's any cultural significance to that, or if that's just, like, that's what he did.
I think there is. I just don't really know anything about it, but
Okay.
I think I've learned one time, probably back in school, that there's like a cultural thing with that.
Okay.
Like I think when like in that culture, like nose rings, like you know how like we give like a wedding ring.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that with like the nose ring, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually, that's what Altus just said. He said nose rings were usually a sign of marriage.
Yeah, yeah, I thought so.
That's really interesting. I wonder, like, was that just during this? Because, like, I don't recall that being a thing, like, during the time of, like, David or, like, by the time of Jesus or anything. Like, is that maybe, like, just this specific time period where that was a thing? Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was a thing, like, all the way up till Jesus, and I didn't know. But yeah, I'd be curious, like, if that was the cultural norm, how long it was the cultural norm. Like, maybe it was just, like, up until, like, Hellenism? Maybe?
Probably, maybe.
It continued pretty far into the future. My wife has one for... Wait, are you serious? Like, actually? Like, right now, your wife has one? Dude, if that's true... I'm probably gonna lose my mind. Dude, that's actually really cool.
That is sick.
That is so cool. Dude, I didn't know you were married too, so congrats, by the way. I don't know how long you guys have actually been married for, but still, congrats. Huh. Well, how about... So I guess, yeah, it was always a thing, I guess. How about that? I don't know how I didn't know that. That's so crazy to me that I didn't have any idea that that was a thing. She has a wedding ring for cultural purchases. Or purposes, sorry. Yeah, okay. I gotcha. That makes sense. I was actually talking about that the other day. I didn't realize, like... Sometimes it strikes me as odd as to, like, how much importance people put on wedding rings. It's like, I was making in passing conversation to somebody, I was like, yeah, wedding rings are just kind of like, I mean, like, I'll wear one, but at the same time, I was like, it doesn't really matter to me, like, it could be, like, a $2 piece of plastic, or it could be, like, it doesn't matter to me, it's just, like, not a big deal, I guess. Like, I was even saying, like, a tattoo ring would be super cool, because then, like, I don't have to, like, worry about going to the gym and taking it off and losing it, or, like, going hiking and losing it somewhere. I was like, tattoo ring would be sick. Never have to, like, worry about it. And then someone was like, dude, you're crazy. Like, that would never fly in your marriage. I'm like, what? Like, is it really that big of a deal to you? And apparently it is to some people, I guess. I don't know. But to me, I don't know. It's just, like, it's a cultural thing. Like, the wedding itself means more to me, I guess, than just, like, the symbol of it. I'm gonna hit the hay. Good night. Oh, dude, thanks, man. Thanks for stopping by, Cole. I appreciate you. I don't know if your girlfriend's still with you, but, tell... Like, obviously, good night to you, and good night to your girlfriend. I'm glad you guys stopped by. I appreciate both of you guys. I want a tattoo ring? That's what I'm saying, dude. I feel like a tattoo, like, considering my lifestyle, like, going to the gym and, going hiking and camping and stuff, like, tattoo ring would be, like, way more convenient for me. But, okay, so, PlayStation, Phantom Sword 0, Sword of the Sea, The Plucky Squire... Okay, I'll have to look all those up. I don't know what they are, but I'll definitely look them up. They're remaking the Metal Gear Solid series. That could be... I mean, I never played them, but I know they're good games. And then Marathon. Yeah, Marathon was the extraction shooter Bungie announced. I did see the trailer for Marathon, and, I mean, it's Bungie. I trust pretty much everything they put out, so I will absolutely look into that. Super excited for marathon. I have fat fingers, so my ring finger gets really squeezed, so I have to put it. Okay. I have a wedding ring that is pretty sweet, though. I can't get a tattoo ring, but I totally get the desire for it. Yeah. Well, like, okay, so here's my thing, right? Like, I'm not opposed to tattoos, like theologically speaking. Although personally, I don't really want tattoos, if that makes sense. Like I hit a line where I don't want to get tattoos, but I don't like theologically find problem with tattoos. With that being said, a wedding ring I feel like would be different for me. Like I would, because it's a full-time commitment, and like I don't feel like I'd have a problem with that. Like if I was truly marrying somebody, like it's already a full-time commitment, why not just like have it permanently on my body at that point? If that makes sense. So like if I was to get a tattoo, it'd probably be like a tattoo ring. I don't know. Evan, would you get a tattoo?
Um, I've had like random desires to get one,
Okay.
but like I don't know if I actually could get one. I don't know. People ask me all the time, like, dude, don't you want a tattoo? Like, bro, come on, get a tattoo or like all this. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I
I've
don't
never
know.
had a problem with them. I just never. I don't know why. It's just something about putting something on my body that I know is gonna be there forever. I just don't like.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty much exactly what I was just saying. Like, I don't have a problem with them theologically. I just don't really feel like I could. Like, the only one that I've ever been convinced that I would do would be a tattoo ring, and that'd only be like if my wife wanted to do that with me. But
Yeah.
but otherwise, like, I don't really care about tattoos. I guess to
I
be
just
like
don't
personally.
like if I have to get like if I had to get one, like I have to make sure that it is something that like I will always like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or I will always like be like, oh
Dude.
yeah, I love this being on me because that to me is just horrifying to think like I think I love something so much, so I put it on my body, and then like a couple years later, I'm like, wow, why did I do
Mhm.
that?
Yeah. Dude, Evan, you're gonna love this comment. So Altus has his wedding ring, and his wedding ring is made of three pieces. It's made of a wine barrel, a ram's horn, and an onyx stone. And the reason is because those are the three elements used in a biblical wedding.
Yo, that's awesome.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's
That's
sick.
incredible.
I love that. See, that's what like I want to find. Like I don't care about any fancy gold or diamonds or anything like that. I want my wedding ring to be something like that. Like something super cool made of like have you seen I don't think it's I don't think it's a ring. I think it's a bracelet. And it's made of like stones and sand from each continent of the globe.
Oh wait,
Have you seen those? Those like things like that I think are so cool.
I've seen like the ones that are like, oh, these are like little like balls of water from like ice from the Himalayas.
Yeah. Like
I've
that
seen
stuff
like
is
stuff
so
like
cool.
that.
Your wife got it for you, custom made, and it's probably the most expensive thing I wear, but it's only $80. Dude, I feel that. I don't have like any. I mean, I guess my shoes are. I get fairly nice shoes, but even then, not really. I get like Vans and like. I mean, my Adidas's were like maybe 100, but that's like the
Dude,
most.
my gun's the most expensive thing I wear.
Oh hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, that's true.
Good to see you, man.
I've just been lurking for a while.
Oh
so
okay, I
was gonna use
gotcha.
this food.
I gotcha. Yeah, I'm trying to think like, what do I wear?
This ring
don't-
that you just got me, I would say, is probably the most expensive thing that I could wear on my body right now. Definitely.
Oh yeah, no, dude, your ring. I love that.
Isn't that sick?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude. If you guys don't know, Evan posted a picture of the ring into the chat earlier. I think it's in general. It's a biblically accurate angel on the ring, so you guys should check that
I'm not
out.
sure which one that is. I think it's a seraphim.
Here, let me put this in there for anybody who's not already in it. My shoes are like 60, but I have to get weird shoes, size 12 extra wide. Yeah, oh yeah, no, nobody makes those. I understand. to go to special shops for shoes. God has a sense. Dude, I have been learning that hits far too home in both ways. The weird shoe. Well, I mean, I don't wear wide bases anymore. I used to, but now I just wear 13s. Although it has to be the right size. Like my dress shoes and stuff, I had to because typically like tighter shoes, like dress shoes, don't really fit me super well if they're because I wear a 13. So yeah. But yeah, I kind of understand, not to that extent, because I just get from the companies that fit me better at like a 13 normal, not extra wide. But I understand that struggle, and I far too recently have experienced God's sense of humor. And at this exact moment, it still doesn't feel very great. But I'll be laughing at it in the future, so kind of already at that turnaround point, so already kind of looking back on it and laughing, but what a time.
To be alive
Mm-hmm.
when there's lifted Fiestas driving around.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say,
Dude,
Dietrich, you know about yeah, Evan, you don't know. I can tell you at some point, but Dietrich knows what I'm talking about. God's crazy sense of humor.
Oh yeah, I have no idea.
I'll fill you in.
Jokester.
I haven't told like pretty much anybody, but Evan, you'll find out soon enough.
Okay.
You kind of already know because I already called you. Brought it up in passing conversation, but
Yeah, I probably know it. I
yeah.
probably have an idea.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay, so do we want to get through the rest of the passage then? We like read through it and then
Yep. If we want
Sweet.
to keep reading it.
yeah, I was going to say unless if you have anything else to talk about in the first half, I don't know if I have really anything left.
Nah. Pretty much got everything I wanted to say.
Okay.
Alright, so 29. I'm gonna try to get through the rest of this in one go, hopefully. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man by the well. So it came to pass when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, and when he heard the words of his sister Rebekah saying, "Thus the man spoke to me," that he went to the man, and there he stood by the camels at the well. And he said, "Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared the house and a place for the camels." Then the man came to the house, and he unloaded the camels and provided straw and feed for the camels, and water to wash his feet and the feet of the men who were with him. Food was set before him to eat, but he said, "I will not eat until I have told about my errand." And he said, "Speak on." So he said, "I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and he has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master when she was old. And to him he was given all that he has. Now my master made me swear, saying, you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but you shall go to my father's house and to my family and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, perhaps the woman will not follow me. But he said to me, the Lord whom I walk will send his angel with you and prosper your way, and you shall take a wife for my son from my family and from my father's house. You will be clear from this oath when you arrive among my family, for if they will not give her to you, then you will be released from my oath. And this day I came to the well and said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, if you will now prosper the way in which I go, behold, I stand by the well of water. And it shall come to pass that when the virgin comes out to draw water, I say to her, please give me a little water from your pitcher to drink. And she says to me, drink, and I will draw from your camels also. Let her be the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. But before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebekah coming out with her pitcher on her shoulder. And she went down to the well and drew water. And I said to her, please let me drink. And she made haste and let her pitcher down from her shoulder and said, drink, and I will give your camels a drink also. So I drank, and she gave the camels a drink also. Then I asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. So I put the nose ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrist. And I bowed my head and worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord God of my master Abraham, who had led me in the way of truth to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. Now if you will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing comes from the Lord. We cannot speak to you either bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as the Lord has spoken. And it came to pass, when Abraham's servant heard their words, and he worshipped the Lord, bowing himself to the earth. Then the servant brought out jewelry of silver, jewelry of gold, and clothing, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. And he and the men who were with him ate and drank and stayed all night. Then they arose in the morning, and he said, Send me away to my master. But her brother and her mother said, Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10. After that she may go. And he said to them, Do not hinder me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away so that I may go to my master. So they said, We will call the young woman and ask her personally. Then they called Rebekah and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. So they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, Our sister, may you become the mother of thousands of tens of thousands, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them. Then Rebekah and her maids arose, and they rode on camels and followed the men. So the servant took Rebekah and departed. Now Isaac came from the way of Beer-lahai-roi, for he dwelt in the south. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field in the evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked. And there the camels were coming. Then Rebekah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from her camel. For she had said to the servant, Who is this man walking in the field to meet us? The servant said, It is my master. So she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother's Sarah's tent. And he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Oof.
So Altus makes an interesting point. So there's a lot of marriage of sisters and relatives around these chapters. So we find out very recently Abraham and Sarah were half sisters and half siblings. Isaac is marrying his. Wait, so Nahor is Abraham's brother, and Rebekah, so it's his cousin. Rebekah's Isaac's cousin.
Yeah,
then.
this is like Abraham's grandniece, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. So Altus's
It's like
commit.
grand or great niece, or
So
whatever you say.
So Altus's point is, in Leviticus 20:17, a man who takes his sister as a wife is doing an act of kindness. Yet here it is translated as disgrace. Why did God think that kindness was the proper word to use here, or disgrace was the proper word to use here? Most English translations translate this one verse as wicked act, when the Hebrew usually means an act of kindness. I don't have a good explanation for this yet. Interesting.
Wait, so it's like culturally seen as a disgrace?
So I guess it's the wording here. There's a Hebrew word, chesed, which means act of kindness. And here the Hebrew is chesed, but English translations translate it as wicked act.
What? Really?
It's the only place in Scripture where it's translated as wicked. Yeah, see, this is exactly why I'm out here learning Hebrew and Greek, is because English translations don't always get it right. I was gonna say, what is my translation translated to? What verse is it? What verse does it say it's wicked? Because I want to
That's what I'm
see.
trying to figure out. Which verse?
Because I've got a more modern translation. I want to see if it also says wicked. Altus, do you have a verse for that? So I want to see if my translation also translated as wicked. Leviticus 20. Oh, I thought you were saying here specifically. You're just saying Leviticus 20 has it translated as that. Well, I mean, I guess that goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like, the end of Exodus and Leviticus, there tends to be some weird English translations. So I don't know what it is about, like, the law portions of Exodus and Leviticus that there's weird English translations that aren't really equivalent. But yeah, I mean, you're saying the same thing. Like, this verse in Leviticus talks about it as being wicked. Like, there's very few places in the Bible that I can... Actually, come to think of it, the only place in the Bible where I can think of there being weird translations from Hebrew to English is that portion of Scripture, is like the end of Exodus and Leviticus, like the law portion of the Pentateuch. Like, every time I can think of where I've had discussions about English translations being weird about the Hebrew, it has always been from that area. So I don't know what it is with that area, why the English translates it weird sometimes. Because I remember another big one that people point out nowadays is that a lot of the times it translates homosexuality in Leviticus, it's not actually talking about homosexuality, it's talking about incest. Because I know that's a popular one that people like to bring up nowadays, is that that's translated wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, Romans still talks about homosexuality being a bad
Oh
thing.
yeah, Leviticus. What is it? Leviticus 18:21 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, people say that all the time. I don't know why.
But yeah, because like there's weird things like all over that area with English translations being odd, like translating words into things that don't make any sense. So I don't know what it is. Like, if there's a specific reason why those areas are more like that area specifically is spotty on translation sometimes.
I've heard that there was one verse in Exodus when Moses, I think this is in the KJV, or it might just be in all the English translations, but like when Moses comes down, it says he's glowing. I guess like one of the English translations like translated as he came down and he had horns on his head.
Huh.
Do you know what I'm talking about? I heard of that like the other day and I was like, what? And I
trying
didn't
to
even know
think.
if that's even true.
I'm trying to think. I feel like I've heard something like that, but I don't really know much about it. But yeah, and then I feel like there's other ones from that area too, where they're like translated weird. I don't know. It's odd. It's very odd. Because I can't think of anywhere else in the Old Testament where there's spotty translation other than from like that specific area, like Moses' law. It's the only portion I can think of like weird translation things. I don't know. I don't know enough Hebrew to get into it, I guess.
Here you go.
I'm trying to think. So, what all do we got here in this section? Well, we got Laban. Laban's not really super important now, but he's going to be super important in like 4 or 5 chapters. Because we learn he's a lying cheat, son of a gun. Dude, if I had to work 14 years for a man because he lied, man, I wouldn't be too happy.
Okay, I was wrong. It's not. This is more of a historical thing with the whole horns and Moses. That's not like about the English translations at all. It was when we had the Latin Vulgate.
Oh yeah.
And like in the Latin Bible that they used like during the Roman Catholic Church, they said that Moses had horns. Okay, and that's why if you look at there's like an old statue that Michelangelo made of Moses. He has horns on the statue, and that's why. It's because they mistranslated the word.
Yeah, No, that makes
From
sense.
shining, like his face shined to his face had horns.
Yeah. No, that makes sense because that's why English translations use the Masoretic text and not the Latin Vulgate.
Yeah.
Because it was the most accurate. Because there was so many different, like we could have used there was the Masoretic text. There was the Greek Septuagint, which was the translation of the Hebrew into Greek, and then there was the Latin Vulgate, which was the Latin. So it's like it was better for us to go back to the original Masoretic to English than go like Hebrew to Latin to English. Like that, then it just gets too muddled. And you get things like
Yeah.
that. Like that's a perfect example of why we went back to the Masoretic text for English translations. So Altus's working theory is that it's referred to as shameful, but also is an act of kindness because the root of the sorry. So the root of the word implies that it could potentially be both. Like if you have to marry your sister, it is allowed as an act of kindness, but it is shameful to do so if others are suitable. So kind of like like back then, it was seen as shameful to be single. Like if your sister has no equivalent mate, it's an act of kindness for you to take her as your wife so that she's not single for her whole life. Especially since like women didn't have rights, like pretty much at all back then. That would make sense, like why that would be such a big deal. Like she wouldn't be able to buy property, she wouldn't be able to do anything. Or Lucifer staying in English instead of a direct translation. Thus, no one considers the passage about Lucifer to be about Adam anymore. Which one? Which one specifically are you talking about? Now I'm curious. Hmm. But yeah, Laban. What a lying, cheating son of a gun. He doesn't seem all that bad now, chat, but let me tell you, you're gonna hate him here in a couple chapters. But yeah, dude, this servant of Abraham's, what a G. What a guy. This man, for real, like, one of the best. Couldn't imagine a better servant than this guy. So yeah, this is just Abraham's servant repeating back to them all the stuff that, had already happened, kind of like a recap. Came to the spring, and this is kind of recap too. He's just repeating back the story. That's part of why this chapter is so long, I feel like, because it's literally just like this whole section 34 to 44 is just repeating exactly what we just read. Oh wait, I want to look that up. New tab. Isaiah 14, 12 to 17. How art thou? Okay, so you're saying different translations translate Lucifer differently. Okay, so King James version translated to Lucifer. I'm using more modern, like NRSV. Yeah, NRSV doesn't use Lucifer. What about some other translations? What about like ESV or NIV? Let's do NIV next. Wait, is NIV not here? Oh wait, it's up here. Why is it out of order? What? How you have fallen, morning star, son of dawn. Yeah, no, it doesn't translate it. Lucifer. I'm just out of curiosity, what does the message do? Yeah, message doesn't do it. Yeah, King James does. And you're saying that's because of the... Is that because of the Vulgate you're saying that it's translated Lucifer? Or...
Isn't the King James the only one that does that?
It might be. I actually didn't know about this until just now. This is like new information to me.
I think it's the only one that says Lucifer.
Yeah, no, he's saying the same thing in chat. Yeah, it's only the KJV. Huh.
I'm a big KJV boy.
So does Lucifer stay that way because of the Vulgate? Who is the one who
Actually, don't
said
know. I don't
in
think
their
so.
heart, I want to be like God in Genesis? Who is the one who brought death into the nations, into the world and laid nations low? Who was the guardian in the garden, the bright one? When Moses went to Mount Sinai and was in the presence of God, his face shined so bright, they had to cover his face with a veil. Jesus is the presence at the mount, and his whole body shone. Adam lived in it. Yeah, Lucifer's from the No, okay, so I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is the Vulgate and the KJV translate it Lucifer, but all the other English translations translate it as Adam. This is so I've never heard of this before. This is so interesting to me. Lucifer comes from the Latin luciferum, meaning bright one. The term Lucifer in the Vulgate is also used to describe Jesus in 2 places. Huh. So Lucifer is actually an adjective. It's not meant to be like a name. It's just translated to day star, a term used for high priest. So it's not. So in some it's translated Lucifer, in some it's translated as day star. Oh, okay. So that's where the the miscommunication comes in. It's because Lucifer isn't meant to be a name. Lucifer is an adjective meaning bright one. So here it's translated O day star, like bright one. So in the Latin Vulgate, day star is translated as Lucifer because it's an adjective. But day star is meant to be a term used to refer to high priests. And Adam was the high priest of the garden, which is what this is referring to. Dude, my mind's blown right now. What in the world? So this passage is talking about the garden, and the day star of the garden is the high priest of the garden, who was Adam. And the reason it's translated Lucifer is because day star, bright one. Oh, wow. That's so cool. But now Adam is all of a sudden retranslated and now understood to be about some devil who rebelled and was the most glorious angel, then fell from heaven. Whew. Huh. That's so interesting to me. I don't know if that's interesting to like anybody else, but I'm I'm blown away by that. That is so cool to me.
Yeah, doesn't it? I mean, it pretty much just means like the bright morning star, right? Kinda
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
So
and that's
I'm
why
pretty sure that's a term to like that's like a term for Jesus, I think, in Revelation too.
yeah, I think that's what he was saying earlier. He said in the Vulgate, Lucifer was used to describe Jesus in 2 places because Lucifer means bright one. Huh. So it's kind of like how in the we were talking about this a couple weeks ago in that the devil of so like we have Lucifer, which is just the translation for that. But then in Job there's the Satan, which is actually more better translated to an adjective being the accuser. So it's kind of a similar thing. That's pretty cool. All right. Okay. So this passage, what do we got? Sorry, I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the whole thing before we have to end up heading out. I mean, we got plenty of time, but
Let's see.
so this whole section right here is basically, I mean, I feel like that's why this chapter is so long, is because like 34 to 44 is just a recap of what we just heard. To like his family.
Yeah, true. I was realizing that as I was reading, and I was like, dude, I've already read this.
They do a lot of that in Genesis, like just repeating stories over again.
Yeah, Very true. There was a couple parts I wanted to talk about. I'm trying to think. It is kind of crazy. Like, so they were like, yeah, can we keep her here for like a couple more days? At least 10. That's crazy because it's like, we're thinking like, no, like she's got to go. But at the same time, you're thinking like, I mean, this might be the last time they ever see their daughter or sister ever again. So I could definitely see why they wanted to do that.
And the servant's like so excited. He's like, no, like I can't wait any longer. Like I need to let my master know right away. Which is kind of cool. Like the servant cared that much. He was like, this is way too exciting. What do you mean? We can't wait any longer. So interesting. Yeah, no, I think I agree with you, like, to an extent. Like, I mean, I wouldn't blame any layperson for making theology based off of an English translation, but I can understand why, like, higher leaders would probably need to build their theology off of the Hebrew instead of the English. So, like, I wouldn't fault a layperson for building their theology off the English translation, but, like, for me, and like for other people going into this kind of a field, yeah, I can understand why it would be important to build it off the original language. Just because little things like that change quite a bit. Same thing I argue with culture. Like the best way I had it phrased to me was one of my professors. He told me, you can't just have the content of the Bible because then you misinterpret it based on your own bias and vision. And you can't just have the context that the Bible was written in because then you miss the actual content the Bible has. You need the content of the Bible read in its context so that you can have the constant message that God is trying to tell us. And I think that's the best way I've ever had that framed to me. Oh, hey, Noel. How's it going, man? It's good to see you. Yo, you have, Well, how's things been going with the family and everything? You guys been good and everything? I know the prayer request you put in earlier. I hope everything's been going well with that and everything. Because it's relying on translators to be prophets, essentially taking their word as if it is the prophet directly. But translation requires interpretation. Interpretation between languages is always faulty. Yeah, exactly. Like we can't have a perfect translation into English. We can get pretty close, but we also had about 1,300 years of biblical theology built off a translation. Yeah, depending on what background you come from, absolutely. Dad has surgery tomorrow or Friday. Yeah, dude, I mean, we've been praying for you. 100%, man. I'm glad that, I'm glad I got to see you tonight to ask about it. I'm glad you were able to stop by. I appreciate it a ton, man. But yeah, dude, I just wanted to let you know, man, we're praying for you. I won't go into it. I imagine you probably don't want to be talking about it, but I just wanted to let you know we're praying for you, man. Praying for all of you guys. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man. But yeah, man, we've been praying for you and your family. So hopefully everything goes well there. Yeah, man, absolutely. I just, I saw you stop in and I was like, oh man, I gotta know. But yeah, man, we're still praying for you. I'm glad you were able to stop by, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, Laban. I don't like that guy. For you to, So this is interesting. I had a point that I was going to bring up based on a video I was watching earlier. I didn't have a lot of time again, but I was reading I was watching a video that was talking about this verse here, or not this one. Which one is it? It's down here, isn't it? And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. He took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. I was watching a video. I don't know if it was a translation they were using or something, but it was saying essentially, which I don't agree based on this translation anymore. I'd like to read the Hebrew, honestly. They were saying that this chapter in particular was arguing that marriage for God is based on, I mean, I guess for lack of a term, sex, right? And I was going to bring that up. I was like, oh yeah, no, this passage really does seem to be arguing for that theology, even though if, like, you know, different portions of the Bible talk about marriage differently. But but now that I'm reading this translation, this English translation, I don't think it does say that. This translation, he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Those seem to be separate things in this translation. He took Rebekah, and she became his wife, not he took Rebekah, so she became his wife. Because the translation that they were using in the video said he knew Rebekah, so she became his wife, and he loved her. This one seems to be saying like they're separate things. Like, so he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, like separate things. I'd be curious what the Hebrew says there. Because I don't think I agree with their statement anymore based on this translation. But yeah, that was just a random thought that came to my mind, I guess. Here was another thing I noticed, actually, on your read-through, Evan. So, they're coming back, and Rebekah asks, "Who is the man over there?" And the servant says, "It is my master." But he's referring to Isaac. Which everywhere else in this chapter, he refers to Isaac as his master's son. And now here he's referring to Isaac as his master, which is interesting to me. I don't know, like, if there's a reason why it's worded differently there than it is everywhere else. Because he very specifically says, like, Abraham, my master, and his son Isaac. And here he's like, oh, yeah, Isaac. Yeah, he's my master. Like, I don't know if there's, like, a specific reason for that. Like, if there's a meaning behind it or something. But, I don't know, I just noticed it when you were reading through again.
Wait, which verse?
Verse 65. And said to the servant, "Who is the man over there walking the field to meet us?" The servant said, "It is my master." So she took her veil and covered herself, and the servant told Isaac all the things. Yeah, so it's like, it seems like he's referring to Isaac there. Which is interesting, because that's not how he referred to him elsewhere in the chapter, I think.
Yeah, true.
I mean, maybe it's just like
I
courtesy.
guess 'cause it's like, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there could be no reason behind it. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, true. I did notice that too as I was reading through it. You mentioned it.
And then,
I love how Isaac is meditating in the field.
I know, right? It's so epic.
That's just epic, yeah.
Like,
Which honestly I need to do more often. Just go out in nature and look around and just be like, wow, this is amazing, God.
just meditate. Oh, dude, I was talking with same person I was talking about earlier, talking with them, and they were telling me, like, their philosophy behind spots was how they worded it, and they were like, I don't know, I just feel like there's certain spots where God is more present with me, and like they were prefacing, like, I know God's like everywhere, but at the same time, like, even though God's everywhere, there's definitely seems like there's points where God is more present in places where he's less present, if that makes any sense. And I was like, no, I see what you're saying. And they were like, yeah, no, like, I know like specific spots that I go to, and like I really feel God's present there, and like I can meditate with him and pray and everything. And I was like, yeah, take me to one of these spots. I want to like know what you're talking about. I think that sounds sick. And yeah,
it makes sense.
We gotta find some epic spots. Oh yeah, and we got more talk about the veil stuff too. So like in a couple chapters we're gonna have I'm guessing that was a cultural thing at the time, was that you weren't supposed to see your wife before you were married,
Yeah,
because like,
yeah, I think it is.
because Jacob had that problem with Leah and Rebecca, or Leah and Rachel. Gosh, I always get them mixed up. Leah and Rachel, where they both were veiled on the wedding day, so that they weren't able to like see her. And the same thing happens here. So like she covers herself with her veil before the wedding. Well, I guess it's not that like they can't see her. It's just like specifically before the wedding, I guess. Because like obviously Jacob knew what Rachel and Leah looked like before they were married, but it was specifically before the wedding they were veiled, so they couldn't see each other.
Mhm.
Um, and then yeah, like Rebecca, sorry, covers her face with her veil, and then goes up to Isaac. Um, yeah, I don't know.
There's something about this I wanted to mention too about how when you become a believer, you become the bride of Christ.
Go for it.
I had something like that where this connected. How like ultimately like we see so many things in scripture that connect with Jesus and like connect with like kind of like that. And
Mhm.
I don't really remember what I was gonna say about this though. Something about how like it's kind of the same way.
Hmm.
Like I guess like the veil, like right now, we're like the bride of Christ, but we're wearing a veil right now, so like we can't really be like with like God, like you know what I mean? Like not
Mhm.
yet.
Yeah.
It was something like that.
Hmm.
That
So
was
we're the
weird.
bride waiting for our day of consummation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kind of epic, honestly.
It is. It is so epic.
It's so funny, like, the deeper I get into the Bible, the stranger the sexual ethics become. Like, usually I just think of it like, oh, it's so, like, white and black, like, what it is, and then it's like, oh,
Mm,
different portions of the Bible talk about marriage meaning different things, and, like, different
yeah.
portions of the Bible seem to have different expectations for who you can marry, and then there's, like, I
And
don't
then you
know.
read Song of Solomon, and you're
And then
like,
you
huh?
read Song of Solomon, it throws all of it out the window because apparently they're unmarried, and it's like, oh, well, what's up
Yeah.
with that?
Oh, this is
Yeah.
interesting.
It's like, isn't this supposed to be like the model of a great marriage? And it's like, oh, they don't seem to be married. What's up with that? Oh, it's so interesting. Like, the further get into it. Oh, yeah, this was something I noticed too. It specifically mentions in verse 59 that Rebecca comes with her nurse.
Oh yeah, yeah, I saw that.
I was like, what's up with that? Like, why does it specifically mention her? Like, did she have some kind of medical thing or something? Like, I feel like that's not normally mentioned. Like, somebody's nurse comes along. It's like,
Yeah, no, I don't
they're
know
like,
what that was supposed to mean, unless that's just kind of like how it is, like nurse, as in like her personal like servant that she had.
that's actually so funny you said that because Orthodox just literally said that at the same time. He said a maidservant,
Oh,
basically.
really?
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that's kind of what I was thinking when I read it. I was like, that's probably like a servant
Okay, yeah,
that
that
she
makes a
has.
lot more sense. Because I was going to say, the only other time in the Bible I can think of it specifically mentioning that a medical practitioner traveled with somebody was Paul. And it was because we specifically know he had a medical condition. Um,
Hmm.
but no, that makes sense. It's just her maidservant. That makes a lot of sense. I wonder why it doesn't just say that. Why it specifically says nurse instead. Oh yeah, here it is. It doesn't mention Abraham's servant having other men come with him, but it does mention it here. So they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse along with Abraham's servant and his men, and they blessed Rebekah. So like earlier it doesn't seem to mention anything about Abraham traveling with other men, but down here it does say like, oh yeah, no, he had other men with him. Crusty eyes according to church tradition? Wait, are you talking about Paul? That's a really funny way of referring to that if you're talking about Paul. Who are we nursing? Well, apparently nobody's nursing because it's not actually a nurse, it's a maidservant. So, what can I say? Crusty eyes according to church. That's so funny. I've never heard it worded like that before. That makes it even funnier, like especially, you know, when he was blinded and he has scales come off his eyes. So what translation am I using right now? I think it's NRSV. Yeah, and the New Revised Standard Version. Usually whenever I'm doing scholarly work, I use the NRSV. If I'm using like if I'm reading for personal devotion, I'll usually use like KJV or ESV. But for scholarly work, I usually use NRSV. That's like saying a mom wasn't a nurse. I guarantee maidservants be nursing folks. Well, who though? Who would the maidservant be nursing? Rebekah didn't have any kids, and it was only Rebekah and her nurse. There was nobody else. So she couldn't have been nursing anybody because Rebekah didn't have kids yet. Nurse Rebekah when she was young? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Like, she was Rebekah's nurse from when she was young. Okay. No, I guess that makes sense, actually. I started using NLT. Do you think that's bad? I mean, I think NLT is a pretty reliable translation from what I've heard. I haven't heard anything bad about it, at least. Sometimes the nursing maid who was actually the person who Yeah, okay. Huh. So maybe it was literally Rebekah's nurse. Like, meaning literally the person who nursed Rebekah when she was young. I mean, that wouldn't have been uncommon back then, because they were more, like, tribal about their children, like, sharing them among each other. Well, the problem with the message isn't that the message is a modern translation. The problem with the message is that it was translated by one person exclusively. That's why the message translation is, like, not really seen as reliable. Like, the problem with the message is not that it is a modern translation. The problem with the message translation is that there was nobody else to back it up, other than one dude. And I'm not saying the message translation couldn't be used to help people. I'm just saying I probably won't, because I'd rather use a more scholarly translation, if that makes sense. Yeah, but I see what you're saying though. Like NLT is a more modern one. I just don't really know much about it, to be honest. I mean, I can see that being the case. I can definitely see that being the case. Oh yeah, and then it mentions down here, then Rebekah and her maids rose up. Wait, that's so weird, because up here it says, so they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse, and then down here, later on it says, then Rebekah and her nurses rose up. What? That's so odd. Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't realize this until just now, but this is further what my one professor was talking about earlier, in that, like, this is further showing how split up Abraham's family was, because Abraham was still living in Bir Halalroi, and Isaac wasn't living with him anymore. It says here, and Isaac was settled in the Negeb. Like, as in he was living in the Negeb while Abraham was living in Bir Halalroi during this time period. And Sarah was dead. Hagar and Ishmael are back in Egypt. So, like, Abraham's alone. And Isaac's alone. Sarah's dead. Lot's gone. Who knows? Probably dead at this point, to be honest. Hagar and Ishmael are back in Egypt. They're all, like, split up at this point. Which is crazy. Like, you don't think of them being like that. But, like, they kind of are. Like, none of them are living together at this point. Hagar and Ishmael are closer than Abraham and Isaac at this point. Like, it doesn't say how long Isaac was away from his father, but he was very clearly not living with him right at this point. And, like, you can kind of even infer that at the beginning of this chapter, because Abraham isn't speaking with Isaac about this. Abraham is saying, like, doing this on his own. He's like, yeah, no, go find a son or a wife for my son and bring her back to him. As in, like, yeah, no, like, Isaac's not here. Like, I'm doing this for him, even though he's not here. Yeah, my professor would always bring up little things like that and point out, like, yeah, no, they're not together at this point. Like, the troubles of the family over time really split them up to the point where they're, like, they're really not together. And then, like, they'll mention the fact that whenever Abraham dies, I think it's actually next chapter. Let me go over. Abraham marries Keturah, the death of Abraham. Yeah, they'll mention Isaac and his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave. Oh, maybe it doesn't specifically mention it. Oh yeah, because it mentions it here. So Abraham was living in Bir Halalroi, and it mentions his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in this cave, and then at the very end, and Isaac settled at Bir Halalroi, which is where Abraham was. So he wasn't living there during the time of his father's death. So they found out about, Isaac and Ishmael found out about his father's death, their father's death, came back. Then Isaac officially settled back into the land. It's interesting. Like, it's not really specifically stated, but you can kind of infer it if you look into it. Did you know Cleopatra is closer to iPhone's release than she was to the completion of building the pyramids? No, I believe it. Well, like, here's the thing. I would have been shocked about that previously, but Cleopatra's, like, now that I've studied history more, I realize, like, Cleopatra is not, like, she wasn't really during the time of the Egyptians. She was more during the time of, like, Alexander the Great. Like...
Yeah, well, wasn't... Well, yeah, didn't Cleopatra, wasn't she alive when, like... Wait, did my mic cut out?
Oh, yeah, it cut out a little bit.
I don't know why it does that sometimes. No, wasn't she alive during, like, the time and, like, didn't, like, her and Julius Caesar have, like, a affair?
So, yeah, like, I know she was around that time.
Yeah, and then I think Mark Antony after that.
Yeah, she was a Macedonian Greek, technically. Yeah, exactly.
So that was, like, that's, like, a little bit before Jesus' birth, I think.
Yeah, like, no, that would be after. Or wait.
Oh, wait.
No, yeah, you're right. It would have been before. I was thinking 380, but it's 300 BC. That was, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 3 to 400 BC is when that was. Yeah. For some reason I was thinking AD, but yeah, no, you're right.
I think even later than that, actually. I could be wrong.
Well, I guess maybe she wasn't the same time as because Alexander the Great was 320 something. Yeah, I think so maybe she was later than that.
Wait, hold on.
Dude, okay, listen. She ruled from 51 BC to 30 BC. We hear in chat. Okay.
Okay, yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Like, I'm pretty sure it was in like the 50 to 30s BC somewhere.
Okay, so I was around the same time period, but I didn't have it exactly right.
Yeah, because I remember learning this. I mean, like, it's like right before like Jesus' birth.
Dude, okay. Typically, I don't indulge in this kind of stuff, Well, listen, man, I've been thinking. I've been thinking hard. I'm not usually like conspiracy theory kind of like stuff like this. I'm not usually like one to give into this kind of stuff. This is like History Channel type weird stuff, but man, I've been thinking about it. And I don't necessarily feel like I don't feel like they're wrong at this. Okay. So, the first time I heard about this, I was watching there was a clip from the Joe Rogan podcast, and there was this dude that was on there. And at first I was like, at first I thought he was just spitting like some History Channel nonsense garbage, like, you know, weird civilization, alien garbage.
Yeah.
Then I started really thinking about what he said, and I was like, you know what? I could believe it. And I've been thinking about it more and more, and I'm really starting to think this way. And so here's what he was saying. Because, like, Joe Rogan was making some weird comment about, like, the pyramids and how they couldn't have been built. Like, something weird was going on there. I don't know what it was, but something was going on with the pyramids, and, like, I've never given into any of that stuff. But then the other guy was talking, like, about the Sphinx. And he's like, yeah, but there is some weird stuff with the Sphinx. Because, first of all, it seems to come from a time much older than Egyptian civilization being a thing. And second of all, it looks like it was recarved by a lesser civilization. Like a higher civilization built it as a cat, and then a lower civilization came through and recarved it as a pharaoh in a less sophisticated way. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. And like he was talking about, like, if you date the pyramids and the Sphinx, they appear to come from a time older than the height of the Egyptian Empire. And it's like, well, that doesn't really make much sense because they wouldn't have had the manpower to do that. It only makes sense for them to build them at the height of their empire. But what if they came across them? So then I'm thinking, I'm like, you know what? What if they came from an advanced civilization pre-flood? Which then the flood
definitely
set civilization back. So they lost the resources to actually be able to build them. But since they were a less civilized civilization, they wanted to repurpose them for their own usages. So they recarved the Sphinx as a pharaoh. And listen, I told you, I'm not one to like give into this kind of stuff, but I've been thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I could absolutely buy that all of those were from a more advanced pre-flood civilization that the Egyptians came across and claimed as their own. I could believe it.
I could see that. I mean, that you're just. I mean, you're talking like Enoch now.
Yeah, no, that's like
that's how it was. I mean, like with the Nephilim and everything, and like what the angels were like doing with mankind and stuff. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're
And
talking like huge, like half demigod people.
And like we don't know how advanced civilization was before the flood. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't want to go like the Creation Museum. I think takes it too far because they describe like these super sophisticated, advanced societies that were somehow wiped out by the
really?
flood. Oh yeah, you go there and they have like these murals of these huge cities and stuff. And they're
No
like,
way. Are you serious?
I don't really buy into all that. Like I don't think it was that much more crazy. But like at the same time,
I mean,
we
if
don't
it was
know
that
how.
crazy. I don't see why Noah would have built his ark out of gopher wood.
Yeah, and like at the
Not
same
out of some
time,
sort
like
of crazy like steel they would have had if it was that
and there would
advanced.
be some remnants left over, like under
Yeah.
that we would have been able to dig up at this point, and we don't have that. So like, I don't know. I don't completely buy into it, but like at the same time, we don't know how sophisticated they were, and most likely they were more sophisticated than the generations coming off of the Ark.
True, and we don't know like what the Nephilim could have done either because I
That's
mean
true.
they're just huge people. Like
And
they
Orthodox,
probably have the strength to build up a bunch of things.
oh, and they
It's
could
like-
have, and the big, like the giants, they could have lifted the things like to build the pyramids.
Yeah, exactly.
So Orthodox points out that actually makes sense. The earlier you follow pagan religions, the more animalistic they are. Yeah. They were very animalistic back during that time period, and, you know, it makes sense for them to build a big monument to a cat. Which is then strange because it goes the opposite direction during the time of Jesus, because then they were nature religions during that time, which is odd to think about. But yeah. Oh, but yeah, I figure, do we want to, Evan, did you have anything else big you wanted to talk about for this specific passage? Because I know you got to get going soon.
Let me think. No, not really. Other than the fact that I forgot to mention this part in the first half of the passage. When Abraham's servant finally talks to Rebekah and like sees that she's doing everything that he asked that the Lord would show him that she would do, that immediately he started worshiping God.
Hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
There's nothing pretty much to that, other than the fact that I just love it. It just he wasted no time to just be like, "Oh God, you're amazing."
Yeah. No, that's cool. And like it specifically mentions he bows his head and worships. Which typically I feel like we think of that as like a Christian thing, like bowing your head.
Mhm.
That wasn't really like an Israelite thing, but it specifically mentions here he bowed his head. Which is interesting. But yeah, Zeb says you guys are best friends now. He doesn't like me very much, but he wants you guys to be best friends. So.
Woo! Let's go.
But yeah. Any of you guys have any last comments? I'll give a chat a second to think about things they want to ask while I go and say like, yeah, if you guys have anything to say in chat, go for it while I'm talking, and we can circle back and talk about any last comments. But yeah, no, I guess I can do the whole prayer requests thing and pray us out and benediction, and then we can go raid somebody. But yeah, no, so prayer request wise, we have same things I was talking about yesterday with Evan and Ryan, with both of them, and medical stuff. Be praying for them. They could use it right now.
Yes, absolutely.
Pray for Noel, him and his family, with everything going on there. I won't go into details about it, but if you saw earlier in Discord a couple weeks ago, he can definitely use some prayer right now. Noel, I don't know if you're still here, but we appreciate you, man. And I'm not sure what else we have. If you guys have any prayer requests in chat, you can let us know. But I can't think of anything else we have on our end. But yeah, I can pray us out, and then we can raid somebody real quick. Yeah, so Father in Heaven, I thank you so much for our time here today, being able to just chat and have a good time with some amazing people. I thank you for everybody who showed up, that we got to talk and have a good time. I pray that all of us will take some new things away from this, and that we'll be closer to you and to what you want for our lives. Pray that everything me and Evan said was pleasing in your sight, that you were here guiding our words and our actions. I pray for everyone here that we might remember these things and go into the rest of our week ready to serve you and to serve those around us. Pray all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
So, yeah, let me pull this up real quick. I'll go... Oh, my laptop is so hot. I wish I could turn on my fan. Like, I have my air conditioner at my place at school, but I don't have an air conditioner in my room. I just have my fan that I have blowing in my face, but I can't have my fan blowing in my face during stream. So my laptop gets so hot during these streams. These last couple days. So as you guys know at this point, but for anybody else who doesn't know, we're gonna go raid somebody, and we're gonna let them know that God loves them a whole bunch, and we're gonna let them know that we love them, and we're gonna chat with them for a little bit, show them a good time. Yeah, like if you have time to stay and chat, feel free to do so. I know it really like blesses people and brightens up their day and everything. So if you're able to chat with them for a little bit, absolutely. That'd make my day. If you had some time to just stay and chat with them for a little bit. But if not, at the very least, go in, let them know that God loves them, and all that good stuff. So, oh, this is a game I've been wanting to play for a while. Have you guys heard of Pokemon Infinite Fusion? Game looks sick. Actually, you know what? We want to raid this guy? Why not? I'll pull him up. This is one of the games I was thinking about, because I haven't told you guys what is going to be our next big game on stream yet. I want to leave it as a surprise. If everything goes to plan this Tuesday, we're going to start playing our new game on stream. I haven't wanted to spoil that for you guys yet, but this is actually one of the games I was considering for a while, was a playthrough of Pokemon Infinite Fusion, because it looks super cool. But I didn't end up... That's not the one we ended up picking, so... But yeah, so let me start this raid real quick. And yeah, I appreciate all of you guys. You guys are amazing. Let me see if I can come up with a benediction on the spot for you guys. I pray that as all of you go into your week ahead, that you will be able to see the ways that God is sending his angels forth before you to set things right for you. In the same way that God sent an angel before Abraham's servant so that he could find Isaac the right wife to bring back to him. I pray that you can begin to recognize how God is working ahead of you and lining things up in your life in ways that he wants to guide you, in ways that he wants you to go and follow his will. Pray that those will be more open to you and that you'll have open hearts to discern where his spirit is guiding you. And yeah, I hope that all of you guys have an amazing week. I love every single one of you guys. You guys are amazing. I thank all of you for showing up and chatting and having a good time in God's Word with us. Appreciate all of you guys. See you guys hopefully Tuesday when we start our new game, and if not, Wednesday for the next Bible study. Have a good one, guys.